Tony and I have played some golf since we got together last. Do we want to talk about that? We could talk about Mike and I talked about. I don't know if I want to talk about the first round. You weren't there for that one, but I was texting Tony throughout my first round. It was my first round in like 6 weeks. I was so excited about it.
Yep.
He told me before, like, write down your mission for the round. So I just wrote on the scorecard, enjoy the blessing. Playing golf is a blessing. I just want to enjoy the blessing. And by after I took a 10 on number 5, I wasn't feeling very blessed. And I'm just gonna be honest with you. It didn't feel, I hit 3 in a row out of bounds. And I said, well, this is going to be. I was thinking about the podcast that we did that time where you were talking about, I just want to have fun. And then it's like, I'm going to set the course record. And it's like double, triple, quad. I'm just here to have fun.
Here to have fun.
I started off trying to have fun. And by the 5th hole, I was like, this is not any freaking fun at all. This stinks. But I had a little bit of everything that day. I had, let's see, I had it up here. I usually keep track of penalty strokes in a round. By the back 9, I had to go to the tally system to keep up with it. I ended up with 14 penalty shots by the 12th hole.
Jeez.
Wow.
14 and then the worst part about this, and I texted this to Tony on the 12th tee, we had literally that day I had released the podcast where he talked about this. So I just heard this episode 4 or 5 times editing it right before we put it out, where he talked about check in the analyze phase of the post shot routine, how he checks his alignment. It's like, oh, that way I don't chase a rabbit hole, for 12 holes. I literally chased 12 holes of a swing thought before I figured out that my feet were lined up down the right tree line. And then that's why I kept hitting this massive block out of bounds. After that, I fixed my alignment and I played the next several holes pretty good until I was bitten by a fire ant in the top of my backswing on 17. And that kind of put an end to the progress, but
the blessings promptly stopped.
Yeah, it was just one of those days where you couldn't write out that many bad things to happen. I mean, 14 penalty shots, a fire ant bite. Tony, I think you played there. It was right before your club championship at Eagle Ridge. I think that rough was thick.
That rough was terrible. I mean, I was, if you hit a ball marginally through the fairway or at bounce spread or whatever, it'd take everybody in your group looking for it for 2.5 minutes before we'd find it. And you'd almost have to step on it. And I remember walking up and down some fairways, helping people find balls. I probably found 5 or 6 golf balls just like this far off the fairway that people had lost and they could never found them. So I was thinking about that and I was like, man, like that's going to destroy the mowers. Like it's just going to destroy the blades and everything, having to cut that eventually. But yeah,
same thing. When I lost the one on 12, I spent more than my 3 minutes looking for it. Nobody was behind me to start with, so I was like, I'm finding this golf ball. I don't care how long it takes. I'll let somebody play through, but I'm not leaving this golf ball. Because I already lost a half a dozen on the front 9. I was running a little low, It's like I got to make sure I got that.
Expensive round of golf.
It really was. And then, but when I finally did find a couple of balls, but they weren't mine. So yeah, I found several that day. So that rough was thick.
Well, I want to jump on the alignment thing because I hear that from clients, on a regular basis, they're out of alignment. And so like, how did you pick up on that? Is it just you went through everything else before you got to alignment? There's always grip, stance, alignment. But I hear that a lot from my guys, how do you got your dominant eye, and if you think what you think is lined up straight or wherever you want to be lined up, it isn't what is actually happening. So how do you correct that? How do you notice it and how do you correct it?
Let me answer first. I'm going to give the wrong answer, and then I want Tony to give the right one, okay? I check it as a last resort when nothing else I've tried has worked.
Okay.
Because here's the reason. We talked about this, I think, on one of the shows. Like, I can take alignment for granted because at Sully's, shout out, every single shot, I'm pretty much square because the launch monitor is parallel to the mat, and then I just have to make sure my feet are parallel with the mat, and I'm good to go. So I assume after hitting 20,000 golf balls since January on a mat where I was perfectly square, that my alignment was fine. I've put enough reps with my alignment that now there's a completely opposite way of looking at that by saying you haven't actually had to line up in the last 10,000 shots because you always have a cheater code. It's like hitting balls with an alignment stick down. You don't get to do that.
Yeah.
But I just assumed that since I'd done it so many times, I was good on alignment. I mean, and it was that Army golf type day where it was left, right, left, right, left, and there was no rhyme or reason. It was either a block or a snap hook, which is that does tell you your swing path is inside out, right? So I'm way underneath the plane, which is my normal tendency, but it's as simple as if I don't get the club face squared, I'm going to block it, and if I do get the club face square, I'm going to snap hook it. That leaves you a razor edge, line in between. So how I finally checked it is that when I had shot, let's see, after I shot 49 on the front nine with like 12 penalty shots, I was out of ideas. And I had a long wait on 12, and I could see it was going to be a while down there. And I was just like, I mean, I'm sure it's perfect, but why don't I just double check alignment and make sure that it's not an alignment problem? So while I was waiting there, I picked a target. And I went through my entire routine, just like I would hit a regular shot, and try to get myself where I'm ready. I'm ready to hit the ball now. And I just took my driver and laid it down on my toe line. And I stepped back and I took a look at it, and it was aimed pretty much, my feet were lined up about 20 yards right of where they should have been lined up. And
Wow.
your foot line should be parallel to your target. And mine was basically aimed at my target, which if you do the geometry of that, if your feet are pointing at your target, your actual alignment's about 20 yards probably right. But there's an interesting thing that I've struggled with since then. And Tony and I played, I think, our match the next day, and I played absolutely terrible because once I fixed my alignment, all of a sudden the rest of my swing sucked. I mean, Mike and I, we did a video after Tony left last time we recorded where I talked about your posture, grip alignment posture, right? Posture grip alignment, I guess, is PGA. I say gap instead, grip alignment posture. But anyway, if your posture's off, it's going to throw your swing off. We did a video about how if my shoulders are slouchy, it kind of makes you a little bit over the top in your golf swing. And then when you get, have better posture, it gives you the ability to swing more inside out. Well, same thing with your alignment. When I've been lining up with my feet so far right, I've been compensating that by getting my shoulders kind of open to my foot line. And now I have more of a tendency to swing over the top. So now that I've kind of got it all aligned, I'm coming even more inside. And Tony saw me hitting balls. I guess it was when we played together the next day that he's like, you got to get your hands up. And we kind of worked on my takeaway a little bit more, trying to get my arms up. And now I'm hitting a lot better. But it's funny when you don't do things right in your alignment, it forces you to do things terribly in your golf swing to make up for it. And then when you fix it, it turns ugly. So that's the wrong way of looking at it, is that when all else fails, go back to fundamentals and just make sure that nothing you're doing in your fundamentals is wrong. But Tony, what's the right answer? Because I'm pretty sure I should have done that sooner.
I'm not going to say there's a right answer, but think about in any other thing we do in life, we're trying to problem solve, right? Your kid comes to you and says, Dad, my Game Boy isn't working. Well, you could take the whole thing apart and try to find a short in the circuit, or you could be like, well, does it have fresh batteries in it? Are the batteries dead, right? Or I can't get my car to start. Well, does it have gas in it? Is the battery, dead? These are basic things that the equivalent of the golf swing would be your alignment, right? So why go down this rabbit hole and I'm guilty of it sometimes too with, I like to tinker with stuff, mechanics or electronics, things of that nature. And I will like to deep dive and try to figure out what's really going on. But sometimes it is just as simple as let's go through our basic checklist of these are the things that the device needs to operate. It needs gas, it needs air, it needs spark, right? That's the engine. These are the things that the golf swing needs to have its best chance of success. It needs a sound grip, sound posture, sound alignment, right? So I would always say start there before we go down the rabbit holes of other things, just to make sure you're not missing something that's super easy to fix, right? And the other thing I was going to say is if you find yourself in a situation where you're consistently aiming 20 yards right, 20 yards left, whatever the case may be for your particular golfer we're talking about, there's nothing wrong with going and playing a practice round and just laying an alignment stick on your intended target line until your brain starts to train and recognize, okay, in an outdoor open space environment, I need new sight lines, right? Or maybe you've been playing golf for 20 years at the same course, playing your massive pull slice because you do aim 30 yards right. They will put that alignment stick down. You're going to look at the golf course in a completely different way. And you're like, oh, maybe I can actually give myself a chance now. I don't have to make this massive over the top swing because I was just aimed so far right. So that's something I'm going to do, personally, whenever, because I'm just in such a slump right now mentally with everything. I'm going to try to just go to a different way of looking at the golf course, different way of looking at golf. And next time I go play a practice round, of course, I'm just going to put an alignment stick down on every single shot, right? From tee to green, just to declutter my brain, declutter my thoughts, and get rid of that variable. Just make sure that's sound.